facing forwards or facing back, but the middle fingers extend directly away to the side. And from here, lift your chest and broaden the area that we call the collarbones, the clavicle bones. And the collarbones extend from the center of your chest, your sternum bone, and they reach all the way out to the side to the area that we call the outer shoulder. So from here, as you reach your fingertips down, broaden your collarbones and lift your chest upwards. Now, Mr. Iyengar would talk about the collarbones in relation to the position of the hands. And he would say that the little fingers represent the outer collarbones, and the thumbs and the index fingers represent the inner collarbones. So to explore that, extend your little fingers slightly down and also away from you, and just observe how there comes a slight broadness to your collarbones and even an increase in the lift and openness of your side chest. And then from here, can you maintain that as you start to bring your attention to your index fingers and thumb side? And just notice that it in fact does change the position of how we work the sternum bone and how we broaden our collarbones. So for this position, can you reach outwards to your little fingers and broaden your collarbones to the left and to the right side? And then from here, lift and open your chest. Relax your neck, relax your shoulders, and see if you can allow from your fingertips to the movement of your upper arms to allow for the collarbones to be in a state of broadening. It's not the same as throwing your front ribs forwards, but there's a slow, steady increase in the lift of your side chest, and the back ribs start to draw in towards each other and in towards you. And then from here, release your hands and just let your palms rest on your thighs without losing the broadness of your collarbones. So we're going to come out now and take a pose called Paryankasana. Now, Paryankasana is a variation of a Supta Virasana type position, and again, I'm using a block here. If for any reason your knees don't allow for you to bend the legs like this, then you can do this pose with the legs stretched out in Dandasana. Now from here, watch how I lift upwards from the top of the sacrum and I take myself back, not onto the block, but I have to position the block so it comes directly underneath the back ribs. And again, I'm not lying down on the block yet. But from here, I press my elbows down and lift upwards through the sides of the chest, and then walk the elbows in the direction of the feet, and without dropping the back ribs, I lift the chest up and over. I come onto the block, in contact with the block, onto the crown of the head. And then from here, as I drive my elbows down, I see, can I lift the back ribs up, like this. And then to come out, the elbows walk away from the feet. I keep the lift of the chest as I come on all the way back into Virasana. So go ahead and set yourself up into Virasana, or as I mentioned, you can do this pose with the legs extended out in the pose that we call Dandasana. But wherever you are, lift your side chest up. And in Virasana, make sure you've taken the time to move the flesh of the calf muscles away out to the side. And then lift upwards from your sacrum to the top of your chest and broaden your collarbones. As you lift up with your chest, come back down onto your elbows. And now drive your elbows and your forearms down. Lift upwards through the sides of your chest, and then walk your elbows slowly towards your feet and lift yourself up onto the crown of your head. Now, immediately from here, use your elbows and press them down into the floor and lift upwards through your back ribs. Now come more up onto the crown of your head if you do this. Now those of you in Virasana, lift your buttocks up now. And as you lift your buttocks, can you lift upwards through your side chest more, lift upwards through your back ribs more, and broaden your collarbones. And then as you maintain this lift of your chest, slowly lower your buttocks downwards, keeping upwards through the lift of your chest. And then to come on out of the pose, press your elbows down and walk your elbows gently away from your feet. And now lift from your chest and come on all the way up out of the pose. And for the purposes of the video, I'm not going to repeat this, but you could repeat this again. And then to come on out, you'll come into Dandasana, for those of you who are in Virasana, and with your feet slightly apart, press your heels down, and then press the backs of your knees down, and see, can you work to lift upwards again through your side chest, drawing your back ribs into the body as if a block were being pressed into your back body. And then from here, we're going to come on out and take the pose we call Utkatasana. And Utkatasana is fierce extension pose. And for today, you'll take a block and place it right between your inner knees, so the feet will be ever so slightly apart. Now I'm going to turn to the side and we'll do this together. Lift upwards through your chest and sweep your arms out to the side. Spin your palms towards the ceiling and then stretch your arms upwards toward vrksasana. Now as you reach upwards with your chest, look upwards towards the ceiling in between your hands. Your hands are as wide as your shoulders. And now from here, can you take your back ribs in, just like you did in Paryangasana. And then on your exhalation, bend your legs. Press your heels down. Take your thighs down. Move the block slightly down, but keep your back ribs pushed in, your side chest lifted up, and extend your arms higher and higher and higher towards the ceiling. And then pull from your arms as you straighten your legs. Exhale and bring your arms down. And again, this can be repeated several times. We're going to do it one more time. See if you can maintain this engagement of your back ribs as you bend your legs. So the arms extend to the side, turn your palms upwards, reach your arms up toward vrksasana, and then look upwards towards the ceiling. Now use this lift of your chest to lift your chin so that your neck and your face stay soft. And then as you bend the legs, take your knees forwards, heels down, knees forwards, thighs down, arms up, chest up. And the name of the pose is fierce extension. Can you use your back ribs and push them into the body as you stretch your arms up and let your thighs go down? And then pull from your arms to straighten your legs. Exhale and bring your arms to the sides to come on down. From here, we're going to take downward facing dog, Adho mukha. So you'll hold on to the edges of your sticky mat with your hands and turn your hands ever so slightly out. Notice that I have my fingers wrapped right underneath the edges of the mat. And we'll do this together. As you tuck your toes under, go ahead and raise your knees up and lift your buttocks up as high as you can. And as you pull the mat forwards with your hands and with your arms, straighten your arms. And as you press the thighs back, press from the very center of the fronts of your thighs to the backs of your thighs. Pulling forwards with your mat, pulling forwards with your hands. And then start to draw your back ribs in the direction of your thighs. And do this on some strong exhalations. So exhale, move your back ribs towards your thighs. Move your collarbones towards your shins. And see that your arms are in a continued state of extension as you pull the mat forwards, and that your thighs press back. And then on your exhalation, release and bring your knees downwards onto the floor. Mr. Iyengar would talk about the collarbones in downward facing dog, and he would say, see that you don't drop your collarbones. And what that means is the collarbones should not drop downwards towards the floor. So to work on that, we're going to take a block, and the block is going to be for your head. Now this time, just watch before you do. This time the hands are going to be on the floor without holding onto the edges of the mat. And the index fingers will face forwards. And then I have to move myself around so that I can adjust so that the forehead is on the block. And then from here, watch as I extend forwards into my hands and downwards into the hands. And from here, then I start to, again, move my back ribs towards my legs. Now what the block is doing is it's preventing me from dropping my shoulders too much, and also prevents me from dropping the collarbones. So do you see how I'm moving, pumping, not moving very far, but really what's coming into the body is this area, the back ribs. So go ahead and take your hands down and have your index fingers facing forwards. You'll tuck your toes under, raise your knees up, and then bring the crown of your head onto the block. You might have to adjust the position of the block so that it comes easily underneath your head. And then from here, straighten your arms and push forwards and down through your hands. And then from here, lift your buttocks up and press your thighs back. And as you saw me show, can you, with your exhalations, start to draw your back ribs in and in and in and in. Your shoulders will move down slightly, but see that your ribs move faster than your shoulders. And keep your hands rooted down, press downwards into the floor. And then from here, release and bring your knees back onto the floor. Now you'll take your block away to the side. And from here, if you could just watch again for a moment, we're going to come up into the pose and see if we can emulate what the block did. So watch as I come slightly forwards and broaden the collarbones from here. And you can see how my head and my is above my head, is above my arms. And then from here, as I go back into downward facing dog, I want to see that I don't drop my collarbones. So I have to keep the lift of the collarbones, and the shoulders will also lift. And then I start to move my back ribs into the body. But I still keep my collarbones lifted away from the floor as the hands press downwards into the floor. And you can see how now my head comes down in between my arms. So dropping the collarbones would look like this. So I want to keep them lifted. So bring your hands down and see that your index fingers face forwards, whatever direction you're in. And then tuck your toes under, raise your knees up, and bring your shoulders slightly forwards towards your hands. Now press downwards into your palms and broaden your collarbones. And then from here, can you keep your collarbones lifted as you take your back ribs into the body and start to move your back ribs towards your legs. And see that you don't let your head drop down, but in fact try and look forwards. And the more forwards you can move from your sternum to your chin, forwards and upwards, the more your collarbones will stay lifted. And the pose starts to open the back of the body, strengthen the back of the body, as opposed to collapsing into the shoulders. And then right at the very end, let your head and neck release so that your head comes below your arms. And then from here, draw your collarbones towards your shins. And then exhale, release, and come on out. Our next pose is going to be full arm balance, handstand pose. And we're going to do the pose like this. Notice how my hands are turned out. Now, if you're not doing handstand, you can be on your hands and knees and just explore this position where your wrists will be directly under your shoulders. And as I made mention earlier on, we're going to work with the little finger side of the hand. And when you come into full arm balance, or you're going to be on your hands and knees, you want to see, can you see if you can work the hand and move towards the little finger side? So those of you going into full arm balance, be about 5 to 7 inches away from the wall and place your hands down as wide as your shoulders. And you see how I have the hands turned away to the side. And then from here, as I keep the arms straight and walk in so the shoulders are directly above the wrists, so I see, can I move towards the little fingers and press them down into the floor as I lift upwards with one leg and then the other leg. And the legs extend higher and higher. Now reach downwards and press downwards through the outer edges of your hands. See if you can get your little fingers to orient the work of your arms, to broaden your collarbones, and take your back ribs away from the wall, and stretch your thighs and legs upwards towards the ceiling. You can let your head and neck release. But now reach upwards with one leg and exhale and come on down. Rest with your feet apart, and you can rest in Uttanasana, standing forward bend. You can hold onto your elbows, or if you have back issues, you can just keep your hands on the floor. And then you'll bring your hands to your hips and come on up. Of course, you can repeat full arm balance many times. But we're going to move on and take Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog, with a very similar action to what you just did in full arm balance. So you'll take your upward facing dog like this, with your hands turned outwards. And as I show from the side, again, just watch. I'm going to see, can I figure out how to keep my collarbones broad by working to reach to the little finger sides of my hands. And Mr. Iyengar says that the outer bicep has to do all the work here as I rotate the arm this way. So I'm moving the outer bicep in the direction that you see my hand moving. Your arms will be straight up and down. The arms and legs are straight. And then from here, just watch again. As I start to move to the little finger sides of my hands, I have to roll the biceps from the inner to the outer arms And then from here, I take the back ribs in and broaden the collarbones. And then we'll come on out. So place your hands underneath your shoulders. Turn your hands out. And from here, organize yourself so that your feet are apart, legs are apart, and your knees are off the floor. Now press your feet down and lift your bottom shin bones, top shin bones upwards away from the floor. Now as you reach downwards to the little finger sides of your hands, roll and turn your outer biceps from inner to outer and push your little fingers down and lift your side chest up. Broaden your collarbones maximally by rotating your upper arms and reaching down to the little finger sides of your hands. And then exhale and come on all the way out. Rest for a moment. Mr. Iyengar says that the rotation of the upper arms is at its maximum in upward facing dog. But the power of lifting upwards in the pose comes from the inner edges of the hands. So here's what we're going to do next. You'll take your hands so that they face forwards. And if you can just watch for a moment as I move from my outer hands, from the pinky fingers to the thumb and index finger side. But don't watch what my hands do, watch what my forearms and my upper arms do. So I'm now moving to the little finger sides of my hands. And then now I'm moving to the index finger, thumb sides of my hands. And I'm exaggerating both of these directions, inner and outer. So we want to see, can we start off at the outer, keep that, and then slowly roll to the inner. And that's going to take place throughout your upward facing dog. So go ahead, and this time have your middle fingers facing forwards, your hands directly underneath your shoulders. You'll have your legs extended back and the feet are apart. And now lift upwards through your knees, take the tops of the shins away from the floor. Take your little toes downwards towards the floor and straighten your legs. Now begin with the little finger sides of your hands and push them straight down, rotating your outer bicep directly from the inner to the outer so your shoulders move back. And then keep the little fingers bearing weight to broaden your collarbones, and then slowly transition to the index finger and thumb side, and now push down and get more lift and length through your side ribs upwards to the sides of your chest. So again, the little fingers to the index fingers, push down from the outer and keep your collarbones broad, and then reach to the inner and push down and lift your chest up higher. And then bring your knees to the floor and then rest and come on out. We're going to go back to full arm balance again and see if we can get a similar connection from the outer to the inner as you take your full arm balance. And this time you're going to have your hands facing forward, so they'll be shoulder width apart. Those of you who are not doing full arm balance, you get to take downward facing dog and see if you can work again from the outer to come all the way to the inner edges of your hands. You'll have your hands 5 to 7 inches away from the wall and shoulder width apart. And then as you walk in, take your shoulders directly above your wrists and press downwards into the little finger sides of your hands. And notice the effect there. The collarbones are broad and the back ribs already engaged. And then keep that as you transition to the index finger thumb side. And then from there, swing your legs up one at a time and look away from the wall, upwards towards your feet. And can you transition from the little fingers, the outer edges of the hands, to the inner edges of the hands? And as you push down into your thumbs and index fingers, stretch upwards with your thighs, stretch upwards with your feet. And then can you also reach to the little finger sides of your hands to take your back ribs in and broaden your collarbones. And then reach up with one leg, exhale and come on down. And again, rest in Uttanasana, hands on the floor, or you can hold on to your elbows. And then to come up, bring your hands to your hips. We often take the pose Adho mukha and Urdhva mukha together. So that's what we're going to do now. And as we go from downward facing dog to upward facing dog, you're going to take this pose from your hands, knowing that the position of what you press down in your hands has a direct relation to your collarbones, which has a direct relationship to how you move your back. So when we take downward facing dog, you're going to press down from the inner edges of your hands. Keep the inner hands pressed down and then transition to the outer edges. There's often a question in this pose: which side of my arm do I lift? Do I lift my inner arm? Do I lift my outer shoulder? And the answer is it's both. And both can be found by working the extension into your hands. So from downward facing dog, you move from inner to outer. And as you come to upward facing dog, you'll move from outer to inner. This way in downward facing dog, and this way in upward facing dog. So go ahead and take Adho Mukha, collarbones broad, and press downwards through the inner edges of your hands. As you extend forwards and downwards from there, now reach all the way to the little finger sides of your hands, so that every knuckle is pressed downwards into the mat, from the inner to the outer. And then from here, as you come forward to Urdhva Mukha, can you directly come to the outer edges first, roll the biceps, and then from here, now transition to the inner edges of your hands. Bottom shins lift up, outer edges of the feet press down. And then as you come to downward facing dog, again, the momentum comes from the inner hands, and then you extend all the way to the little finger sides of your hands. And then swinging forward, Urdhva Mukha, go to the outer edges of your hands. Collarbones broad, biceps rotate, and now press downwards through the inner hands, lift upwards through the bottom of the shins, and now take your back ribs forwards and broaden your collarbones to the maximum. And then exhale, come back, Adho Mukha. From the inner edges of the hands, can you transition to the outer edges of your hands? And then from here, you can come on down, or you can step or jump forwards towards your hands.